Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, one and all, on this fine Season 2 finale of the list. I, of course, no fucking clue it's coming this year, just like I did last year. But before we start this off, like last year, we did want to start off with a little fun gift exchange. Maybe not necessarily what we would have given each other off camera. Who fucking knows? But it's themed to the show.
All I know is I got something for you, my friend, and I'm sure you got something for me.
Oh no, this is mine.
Oh
mine.
fuck! I'm opening his gift. Oh shit.
No, you're not opening anything. You're sad and alone.
Alrighty, well, Colin. So what happens? I brought you a little something.
Oh.
Well, just go ahead and bust into that.
Thank you. I did get him something, by the way. This is not for me.
It's not some like long veiled Machiavellian scheme to make me feel bad. Don't worry about it.
Yes. Okay. So ribbon, not ribbon. Ooh, you got some glue on here. No, I have no clue what that is. I don't care. That is fine. So we're gonna like Okay, I was like, okay.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. And hell yeah,
Yeah.
I got my music that wouldn't have been cut. Oh, I got my music that I wouldn't have been caught dead listening to in high school, and I don't give a shit anymore. Listen to what you want to, fuckers. I got my Love music, and thank you very much, Tony. I appreciate this. I love this album a lot.
Bro, you gotta have it on vinyl, baby. You gotta have some jazz on vinyl. You got to. You have to.
Yes. This I was like contemplating getting you for a couple months now, and I'm like, I need to see if after a certain point this is appropriate. You will know what it is after you open it and why I needed to see if it would be appropriate.
Alright.
It's not what you think.
It's a Bible. Go to church. Let me see.
It is a religious text if you think about it.
Oh, can you like not? Oh, Jesus. Oh, Lord Christ Almighty. Passion of the Christ. Last Temptation. Looking ass. What we got? Hey! Quentin Tarantino's. What is this? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
So Tarantino, a couple of years after the film was released, put out something he grew up with a lot, which was the novelization of his film. Someone who has read it, especially in preparation for the show, it reads more like the novel the book was based off of that never actually existed.
Yeah.
It's a very specific, weird kind of thing. I love it. It's not for everyone, but if you really love the movie, which you did last episode.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to get that for you. That book's really, really fucking good, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot.
Lovely. Oh, no, that's wonderful. Oh, my God. I'm a sucker for, like, a nice book.
Yes.
just the, oh my God, and it's like the way it feels on the back is like it's fucking old already. I love it.
On Tarantino, that's the second edition. Both editions have a very specific look. The paperback, like little novelizations that you'd get on the gas station rack and everything back when he was a kid.
Oh, hell
and,
yeah.
And it's got that very specific feel to it. It's kind of cheapish feeling.
That's great.
And there's also a hardcover version, but I figured that would be more thematically appropriate.
I like this a lot. I love that. Thank you so much, Colin.
Like you, sir. Please hug in between camera.
You've never seen it.
I've never seen it.
Oh my.
Tony,
Yeah.
what you got planned for us this December on this wonderful holiday season?
So, Colin, the last few episodes, we've gone through some movies that have been, they've been a bit of a thing to get through, right? Yeah. They've been a trial. They've been tough. They've been kind of Colin, they've been long. They've been really fucking long.
Yes,
they've all been really fucking long.
I'm aware. Look at those run times. Even that come and see one is still like just barely 50 minutes. Though editing the last episode right now, people.
Yeah.
It's a porker, motherfucker.
And the movies themselves, more specifically, have been very long. They've been 2.5 hours, and they're very like either like dense with just stuff to chew on, or they're like just very dreary or depressing, whatever. Colin, I figured, why can't we get these motherfuckers down to 90 minutes? So we got ourselves one of those very films today. We got a short, sweet little fucking romp. Here we go.
It's gonna be the 6-hour silent Joan of Arc movie.
This movie has charm. It's miles away as far as like subject matter and such from these last few movies that we've done. And my absolute favorite thing about the movie is that it is exactly 90 minutes.
Yes.
Colin, go ahead and bust in.
The magic numbers you and I have said several times, both on and off camera. I am interested because I really have no fucking idea whatsoever. This duct tape was a choice.
I had to find a final tape for the final season, bro.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, we're back on that weeaboo bullshit.
You didn't think I left you hanging, did you? We are watching Pompo The Cinephile for the final episode. Released in only very limited theaters, right in the middle of like COVID, 2021 in Japan, 2022 in USA, pretty much as soon as they could find an opening for them. Animated by a newly founded studio, Clap, written and directed by Tazuyaki Hiro, based on the work of mangaka Shogo Sugatani, a super optimistic, hyper colorful movie about movies, packed to the brim with anime tropes, and as well as references just heavily warped by the setting of the fictional Nollywood.
All right. A delightful, exhilarating film to watch from Chris Morrissey, or Kim Morrissey, Anime News Network. As long as I have known you, I feel like you've at least understood, to my extent, some passion of film. So I feel like this is some weird attempt for you to reach out to me and my passions. I'll give it a chance. I'm not going into this like.
I think this movie it will surprise you on a few things. I think it will annoy the shit out of you from time to time. That's part of the fun for today. Okay. Anyways, without any further ado, Colin, why don't we just go ahead and jump right on into it?
Jump in, like my favorite Disney Channel original movie starring Corbin Bleu, where he joins an all-girls double dutch team. Comedy of its time, really.
I'm here! 'Tis I, Pompo!
I've been Pompo's assistant for about a year now.
I'm so sorry.
Being able to pick the brain of one of the industry's greats from such a young age.
With the right lead, Pompo can transform any screenplay into a good movie.
Watching and learning from the sidelines.
Gene, hey! I'm going to let you shoot this screenplay of mine. Best of luck, Director Gene. Occasionally, an entire story will unfold in your mind when you meet that special someone. My name's Natalie Woodward. I'm here to audition, and I am never going to give up! No, to flame!
The name's Martin Braddock, the best actor in the world. Just know that I will never hesitate to give you my opinion.
It's incredible how a B movie producer such as yourself managed to write such a perfectly crafted, poignant story.
Ah, I see. So you think I'm nothing more than a B movie producer?
I'm so sorry!
Who do we make movies for?
All you have to do is think about the one person you want to show the movie to the most.
I feel so giddy that I'm trying not to faint.
Yeah, me too. Movies saved me.
I will not abandon my dreams.
This is all I have. My art.
Ah! This is what's wrong with you film buffs.
All right. So, Colin, you want to give the brief plot synopsis of the movie we just watched?
So we follow, as much as the movie wants to title it one thing, ostensibly two characters. One named Jean, one I don't remember the name of the character if I'm being entirely honest, of the younger girl who's the lead actress, and their dreams that are handed to them one by one as they make their way through fictionalized fantasy Hollywood.
I am going to let you shoot this screenplay of mine. Best of luck, Director Jean.
I'm finding it a bit difficult for myself personally to summarize like the plot, because you said this is based off of a mangaka, right?
Yeah, it's
Or a
based on-
manga.
Yeah, mangaka is the
yeah,
person
yeah,
who
the
makes the
make-
thing.
yeah, yeah,
Basically,
yeah.
they're like, they do the art,
Yeah,
they do the
yeah.
story and all that.
Yeah, this has a very vignette feel to it. Yeah, that is the plot as far as I guess I can say.
Well, I guess we got like a do you rate it, and if so, how do you rate it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I hated this.
You fucking hated it?
I hate this movie.
Oh God.
It needs to be impressive. I need a lot of depth right at the start. Lots of fanfare.
And that's fine. Once again, if you like this movie, if this movie makes you emotional or makes you feel something, that's cool. And I'm happy for you. I hate this movie.
Well, do you wanna get into anything? I was going to ask any standout scenes for you, but like I guess standout things that you dislike.
It's hard for me to kind of like cherry pick all these because I want to, I guess, kind of get to like my overall problem with it before I get to sort of like individual scenes.
Okay.
The animation isn't the problem. I can't blame the voice actors when the script is this what it is.
You're looking sexier than ever, Monsieur.
Overall, structurally, there are so many films that are like this. Movies about making movies. Right. There you go. You got La La Land, you got sort of Sunset Boulevard, you got what the fuck is it? You got fucking Babylon, you know, and a couple of those are more recent examples, but this is a very common thing. These are films that oftentimes when awards buzz, or like when awards buzz is coming around, and like these movies win awards at the Oscars, because Hollywood likes to give itself a little fellatio every once in a while. To me, this film likes to philosophize without saying anything. It is a series of platitudes about the importance of creativity and the importance of art, while seemingly not really saying anything of substance. There are several moments throughout this film where it feels like in a normal scene, this is like the point where the movie is trying to make its point about itself. That happens throughout this movie intermittently at random times for what feels like 100 times. For how much this movie goes off about runtime and how much it's like, oh no, perfect like length of a movie is 90 minutes. I think I agree with in essence. It is insane how this movie does not feel like 90 minutes to me. This drags a lot.
Making people concentrate for 2 hours or sometimes more is simply unkind to modern audiences.
And there are certain complaints about other movies that I normally am not a fan of. I don't like people using this is not realistic to how this either career or how this specific profession works as like a complaint towards a movie. A lot of people, you know, talking about Damien Chazelle earlier, a lot of people point to Whiplash as not being a realistic portrayal of music.
Yeah. It's like very exaggerated in the exact opposite like feels direction, I guess. Where that one is incredibly cynical. This one is incredibly very fucking optimistic.
Yeah, but once again, what is it using its exaggerated stylization to do? There are lots of declarative statements in this film that I feel are just wrong. The line that stuck out to me...
Directing is subjective, but editing is objective.
That's just an inherently wrong statement. That's not really saying anything. I struggle to talk coherently about this because as much as like the movie is about positivity, and as much as the movie is supposedly, I guess, about positivity, and as much as the movie is supposedly not nihilistic, the end of the film encourages you to throw everything in your life away for the thing that you're passionate about.
In order to create something great, you have to sacrifice everything. Not just your own life, but everyone's. And their money, too. That's why I refuse to give up.
And I find that to be really disgusting. I'm going off here. I'm not meaning to just kind of go all over the place. And I'm not meaning for what was supposed to be a calmed down Christmas video.
Grandpa Collins bringing up politics again. It's ruffling everybody's feathers.
Yeah.
I think this movie does have a lot of flaws, and you know, I'm willing to fucking accept that and like admit that. As far as like, it has, like I said at the beginning, a lot of like anime tropes that I think get in the way of shit. Just to begin with, right? Characters will say things and explain them after they've just shown them.
No one's a real person.
Can we have a second? Bob, you promised. They can't do a Western this time. Bob, I can prepare. I need the Bible. Jingle, jingle, jingle. Look, it's the $10-gallon hat. What do you mean? No. Jingle, jingle, jingle. Oh, man.
Alrighty. Tony and I just got in a ravenous fist fight in the kitchen.
We cleaned it up. It took a few hours. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think we settled kind of like where we were coming at.
Yeah. I kind of threw your list of questions out the water.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I think there was like on my end sort of like a fundamental disagreement, or not disagreement, but misunderstanding of like where the fuck Colin was coming at with his criticisms, right? In my brain, there's bad movie, right? And then there's shit movie. And that's just a poor vocabulary thing on my end. Bad movies for me are movies that are just like, you make them, they're made to be like a movie. Someone somewhere is trying very hard, or at least trying to make something. And the point is that it's going to be a movie. And shitty movie is something that's like not designed specifically to be a movie or to be a work of art, but moreover to be something like a political statement, like propaganda, or
a product.
Or a product, yeah.
It's too late. Look at me. I'm such a dick.
There's just a word for it that I lack, where it's this specific thing that I can tell you about. I could point at examples of it. We brought it up a bunch of times off camera. Staying Alive is, to me, that's a shitty movie. But something like The Room is just a bad movie.
Now, a lot of people may conflate those two, but I will state something with that, and I will do what you usually do, which is conflate and compact down a point that I'm trying to make. The Room's intent while being made was Tommy Wiseau was legitimately trying to make a work of art. Meanwhile, Staying Alive was made as a corporate product to make money based off of the success of Saturday Night Fever. That is all that film is. Tony, ostensibly, half heard what I was saying in the beginning, where I was trying to lay out some legitimate criticism, also maybe giving a little bit of pizzazz towards the audience at home, because I don't want to just very calmly state this, and was taking it to a certain extent personally for the artist's sake.
Which is a fucked up, weird place to come from, because I'm not even them, bro.
No, I was not insulting the artists. It's my frustration I have that a lot of modern people like to put forward, which is the whole idea of saying fuck the critics. And I'm not talking about people who talk about movies like on YouTube like us, not jack-offs like that, but people whose professional job it is to talk about film on some sort of an intellectual basis, because that's what they enjoy talking about, and that's what they do for a career. When you refuse to interact with some form of discourse that you may disagree with on a piece of art, I feel like you miss out on the opportunities to gain new perspectives. I was more than willing to listen to what Tony had to say. I just hadn't really finished the point I was trying to make. So apologies not only to you, but also to my friend Tony up front if I was coming off as an asshole. That was not the intent as much as I was trying to just be honest. Because I don't want to bullshit on this show and just pretend like I like something just because it's popular or because I'm trying to give anime a chance.
It came out as one big block, as one big like thing, and here I am trying to like, you know, interject what I have to say, but I'm not like letting you finish this thing, you know, and at the end of the day, it's my episode where I ask you how you feel about the thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like taking it very personally, I guess. Like the criticisms I'm taking as like attacks against like this film that I brought onto the show and like a whole fucking thing of like halfway through that I was starting to dissociate, fucking put that up on camera and you'll just see like I'm thinking, oh, I've just completely fucking wasted 90 minutes of Colin's time.
Not at all what I was thinking.
And my brain's catastrophized. Like we've wasted a whole fucking recording session, and we're gonna have to do this again with a different movie maybe because this one's not working somehow. But I just had not finished like fucking listening to his thing about the movie, and also we were coming at it from like two very different standpoints about like criticism and about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like I got panicked and freaked the fuck out.
This episode, we get to talk about the difference between artist intent and what your audience may actually receive. Because you, whether you're watching it at home like we are or in a movie theater, can unfortunately not stand next to your audience and tell them what it's supposed to mean. And even if you could, why the fuck would you want to do that? For a movie that makes an entire goal out of its climax to talk about, like, we want films to mean something to someone else, why would then you want to then tell the audience what it means to them? I did not emotionally connect with this. So all of the points it was trying to make fell null and void to me. And for me, the primary basis, for as much as craft and all these individual elements are important to me, that I view film and its importance towards me is I'm coming at it through from an emotional perspective. That's how I view narrative. That's how I do all this. Is this emotionally affecting me? Because all these individual art forms coming together form less of, as you said off camera when we were talking about this, as a checklist, but more so how the piece of art makes me feel. And sometimes you can articulate that in a way that like lines up and it's all nice and pretty, and then sometimes you like a movie that some people may consider to be traditionally bad. I definitely have a few of those. A lot of people think Batman vs. Superman is shit. That's a big mainstream dumb tentpole movie. I adore that, and that movie emotionally affects me on a deep level.
I understand.
That I have a very difficult time getting across, and I, in the past, have done what you did. I take things very personally. Now, granted, it is Zack Snyder, so people do make it personal about a lot of stuff. But with that being said, I do have a question, even if this is your episode. Tony, why don't you give your thoughts on this film?
What I really like about this film, I think, is it's like attention to detail on certain things. It's kind of hard to like come at this with Colin, because if you hate a character, then a scene that they're in where you're supposed to like emotionally connect with them is really difficult, especially when you're trying to like emotionally connect with the plight that they're like going through.
Yeah.
For example, my favorite scene out of that whole movie, and I think it's more scenes, is in the editing bay, where Gene is working on the movie. He explains at first some of what he's doing in technical terms that I guess are not like actually meaningful to someone who does a lot of editing like Colin and a lot of filming like Colin, but that I kind of got across like the general idea of what's going on. he sets up this, he sets up a scene. He says, all right, I'll do it plainly and flatly to begin with, using chronological order, the shots that we filmed, cutting from one to the next in a way that seems logical. He plays it out, the scene plays out for everybody, and he says, it's missing something. And so instead, he cuts it a different way. He uses, instead, one big wide shot, instead of all these little individual shots that cuts very drastically from a wide in very close on the actor's face.
Who am I to you?
That's it! This shows off Dalbert's prickly personality. I'll keep employing this tactic.
And that's very, very, like, interesting. And that's all well and good, but then it pans a few minutes later up to the runtime, and he says, we're not even in the Swiss Alps yet, and the movie is an hour and 27 minutes long. And so he gets caught up in what he knows, which is, how do I slim down this scene? How do I cut seconds from this? How do I cut minutes from this to make it so that we can at least get through the movie in my goal of 90 minutes? And he spends 2 weeks on it, trying to cut down second here, a minute there. He has the whole bulletin board, and he's getting lost in this whole thing where he's too attached to, like, how perfect these little individual shots and scenes and things that they work so hard to get could be. And that builds, for me at least, to the emotional climax of the film, where he learns, like, there's these big chunks of day to day that just don't fit in this film. The goal is to make it like 90 minutes, short and sweet and to the point. And, you know, the point is to, like, cut all of this unnecessary stuff, even if it means a lot to you, to cut it out for the better of, like, the movie.
In order to create something great, you have to sacrifice everything. Not just your own life, but everyone's. And their money, too.
And I think what Colin was coming at was, like, the more literal, and in hindsight, this is kind of what you could take from this whole section, is like cutting your family out, cutting conversation out, and cutting, like, friends out of your life for the better of my craft sort of thing.
So you tell me, and you were saying, like, oh, well, that's just your subjective view on that. The movie goes out of its way to intercut and match cut him with, like, either family or friends, and him having, like, a lot of his own personal shit cut out, and then say that's necessary, and cutting his voice, and then the other character's voice saying these exact same things. So when you tell me, you're like, oh, it's not the intent of the filmmaker, and I'm like, yeah, but it's not subtle, though. And it's not even, like, metaphor. It's just, it's using juxtaposing images. It's the Kuleshov effect in act. It is psychologically telling me this is what the filmmaker is trying to convey. No. And in a scene about editing, for that to be so in your face, I feel like then, okay, this is for sure what they're trying to say then. And I don't know, I don't feel good about the main character's lesson he learned to be that you need to suffer for your art. Filmmaking is very hard. It's long, it's arduous, it's oftentimes thankless, and this is not a call out to any of our audience members or anything like that, but, you know, based off of, like, our views on the shorts that we've watched on this show, a lot of times people just don't want to fucking watch it. And if the film's message was instead, that difficult stuff is worth it because you're doing what you love, that would be fine. And oftentimes that's what the message of these sort of films are when they're talking about the film industry. But the message is instead this weird, toxic auteur mindset that feels very incel-y. And I really don't like it. Which it instead feels like, to me, it's trying to communicate that, no, in order to be successful, you need to cut everything out that makes you happy. All the people you care about, all your friends. But then it has the balls to have a whiplash ending that instead ends in him getting awards and fame, and it's like a happy ending.
My favorite thing about the movie has got to be that it's exactly 90 minutes long.
The thing that makes something like Whiplash, which has a sort of very similar message to it, different, is those final 2 shots in Whiplash are communicating that our spider finally has the fly in his web and he's going to drink his fucking blood. And once again, maybe that's him, Tony, reading it the correct way, and I am just reading it cynically. But film is a very subjective thing. Yeah. And to say that, like, well, that's not the director's intent, well, that doesn't matter, because that's not what I got from it.
Yeah. I think you got that from it, and I got, like, in the same vein that, like, Nollywood is in no way, shape, or form, like, an accurate representation of actual Hollywood. It's so over the top and so, like, fantasy almost, that you take these things where it seems like, okay, it's toxic, and it would be toxic to literally cut things out of your life, cut your family, your friends, your conversations out of your life, but you accept that is like the hyper version of what the movie is trying to say, and you pair that with the hyper-realized version of Hollywood in Nollywood and all these sorts of things, and say, okay, they're not meaning to literally say that. But then, of course, you have the rest of the fucking movie, which is like a lot of conversations about like the finance side and about like production and about all these sorts of things
and that to me is, I guess, where like that argument falls apart. Because, like, okay, if you're saying it's this hyper over exaggerated, it really doesn't seem that over exaggerated, because Hollywood is fucking insane and stupid. The fact that the weird hentai action movie that they show at the beginning is not too far off from something that probably would have come out 10, 15 years ago. I don't think the point is necessarily to over exaggerate like the system as much, because the system seems fairly like on point for how stupid it is. If anything, the movie feels like, to me, it's trying to lionize the system. Right? I talk about, like, look how great this thing is. This thing that like produces dreams. Look how great this studio system is. This woman who produces B movies and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, it's like this person who, for, I want to say the first like 30 minutes, is almost entirely portrayed as this like dictatorial fucking producer.
Asshole.
Yeah, asshole, is suddenly like, no, I've emotionally expressed myself with this script.
Truth is, making the audience cry is actually pretty easy. Making them fall in love with something vapid takes a stroke of genius.
Oh, I guess that makes a lot of sense.
Where the fuck did that come from? Oh, I saw this woman and she inspired me. Okay, but like, where the fuck did that come from? You can't just say, this is now the reality that we're living in, and then expect me to buy it. You know, it's like, I always talk about how important, like, what you believe and what your truth is. You know, I've talked about this with Tony a lot. I think Michael Keaton as Batman is one of the single most overrated performances within comic book films. Everyone views it as this perfect representation of a character that they love, that they grew up with. But when I watch Michael Keaton in that suit, and I've watched this movie since before the Nolan movies even came out, I grew up with this.
No.
I don't buy him.
But I don't know what to think of all this. I really don't.
Look, sometimes I don't know what to think about this. It's just something I have to do.
Why?
Nothing about him makes him what the film is trying to portray, which is scary. I don't buy him as sexy. I don't buy him as this, like, dashing, debonair, romantic Zorro type. He just comes off as Michael Keaton in an uncomfortable rubber costume. And to say over-exaggerated stuff, well, it's because it's, you know, it's big and over the top and campy and also dark. No, because I buy Adam West.
Ringside table, Batman?
Just looking, thanks. I'll stand at the bar. I shouldn't wish to attract attention.
And it's not even like Michael Keaton isn't playing it straight. It's because the story that is there does not provide me with enough substance to give a shit why this guy would play Batman. So for this movie to continuously over and over again tell me why movies are so important for this main character, only for it to take till the final 30 or so minutes to actually explain why film is important, or for him to understand that. For the majority of the runtime, I don't give a shit.
Realistically, there are things about this movie that Colin just fucking hates. Where I will say, like, yo, that editing scene is really, really good in isolation, in my opinion. When compared to, like, its purpose in the story, it gets completely, like, muddled and ruined by all these things that Colin is seeing and that Colin has found, like, as far as, like, toxic workplace culture and all this sort of thing. And I think, like, I can still appreciate that. I can still enjoy those sorts of things. And, you know, appreciate also that there's these very valid criticisms of the characters, oh God, I didn't even get to the music. Hey, Tony's Musical Hour.
No, Tony's Musical Hour. Wow.
Real briefly, the music in this movie sucks. It's bad. It's, I mean, not like bad,
you see,
bad.
you're doing it again. You can call something bad and it's fine.
Because I have a threshold for bad, which is like the fucking the basement trumpets in Resident Evil, where it's so fucking unusable that it's like not
Tony,
whatever.
You can heighten your tastes enough to where you can look at something and objectively understand that did not do its primary job of emotionally affecting me.
And it's bad. I would love to see, you know, there's some parts where I'm like, no, it's just bad. It's bad. I'm trying so to be like nice about it, but like the music is just not doing what it needs to do. It's not effective. It's just kind of there. I hate this when even in English, when like songs have people talking over the lyrics of the song. It tells me that, like, okay, that song means nothing to the scene because you're literally talking over it.
In order to succeed, in order to keep what's left over, in order to not give up, I will cut!
If it's meant something, then, like, you know, you might cut out the vocals of this section and extend the chorus a little bit, or extend this verse out a little bit, or like cut a section of whatever so the guy can make his big main point, and then cut in with the lyrics of the music. But they kind of just throw it under there, and it's just like whatever.
Music is music. The scene needs music because it's a scene, and music is music.
Oh, we got the fucking licensing for this. Oh, that's sick.
Well, that's the insane part. Is like, okay, in my experience with Japanese animation, one thing I have consistently noticed is whether or not like it's advertised, like soundtracks for anime are very big, and that's like a thing that you want to do. To me, it feels like a lot of those tie-in pop songs that were put in were just kind of put in for the sake of, we got this artist to make or license out this piece of like music that they're using, so we have to put it in the in the movie somewhere that isn't like over the credits. Like, I don't know, I'm a person that worships at the feet of Ingmar Bergman. And the thing I love about that man is an almost like refusal to put in music unless it's somewhere that's absolutely necessary. Scenes from a Marriage is technically a mini-series. I would call it a film. On the Criterion Bergman set, it is a film, and it was cut down to a 3-hour movie released in American theaters. That is just scenes of people talking in small rooms.
Ja, jag vill bort från alltihopa. I alla fall en tid. Ja, jag skulle i alla fall resa ner senare i höst och träffa Grandin och hans assistent.
That's all it is. And their marriage slowly just like crumbling to pieces. It's not, it's cinematic, but not in the way you would think it is. But music is almost entirely vacant from that.
Like, which is, I think, like, like in its few moments where it comes in, it's
Yeah.
like it's very important to this very specific scene,
Yes.
which is why you know that Bergman would give a shit.
Yeah.
I don't even need to see the movie to know that's where you're going with that.
Yeah, and like it's why this whole thing of like trying to like claim that like musical score is there to tell an audience how to feel. I hate that shit. It's like when people tell me that the first Star Wars movie would be bad without John Williams' score. No, it fucking wouldn't. No, it fucking, like, yes, no. It greatly elevates everything. It gives it this grand scale. But saying that, like, the movie is nothing without Williams' score, and I've told Tony about this a lot when he's, like, used that as sort of like a hyperbolic thing. And like, you know, the same thing with, like, Jaws, or even, like, Jaws being like, oh, the movie Jaws wouldn't work if the shark had ended up working. The shark not working is what makes the movie good. Ignoring, you know, the first, like, hour and a half of, like, character building and like, all this kind of stuff. So to me, it's like, music, like everything, is a tool. Not only do you need to know, like, how to use it, but when to use it. And for this, like you talked about, it's like the music just kind of seems to come in because the moment's intense and it needs music. As an editor, not just for this, because I always get frustrated when people like conflate narrative editing and video editing. They're two very different practices. I didn't find the sequences of him editing, not just at the table, but him having an imagination, like where he's like cutting film reels and everything. I didn't find it to convey the emotion of what it feels like to get on an editing kick. Because the actual act of cutting and splicing, which is what the action is indicating during that whole scene, is not the exhilarating part. The thing that makes editing worth it is spending hours on this laborious, awful, kind of shitty task to then look back and see if what you did is emotionally affecting to you and then to other people. So this idea that it's like, oh, I'm gonna edit, this is gonna be so much fun. Maybe some people feel that. But when I see this person, it feels like, I'm not calling the filmmakers AI here, but it feels like, from a writing perspective, you put in like cinephile incel nerd into like ChatGPT and told him to write a character bio.
I think it's in that moment where he's like, where he's editing the first scene. He says, "Oh, it's gonna be so fun. I must be the happiest guy in the world to be able to edit this sort of thing." And he's talking about how, it's like he's excited to edit it, and he gets into this scene where he's like editing the first fucking scene, and he pays so much attention to this one thing. I think that's all made to build up the idea that, oh, by the way, you have 70 hours worth of footage that you need to cut.
That is under exaggerated. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't want to like go off on like a tangent about like sort of the realism of this, because it's not about whether or not something's realistic. But man, it's like for a movie that wants to talk about like the ins and outs of film production, for you to not understand certain things on like a fundamental level, for how like the basics of certain things work, it's frustrating. Because like when I hear people talk about like Whiplash and they criticize it, the major criticism is, besides realism, is like, oh, it's too over the top. Of course it's like over the top, and these things like aren't, like a lot of these music pieces aren't difficult in Whiplash. But for me, my fundamental issue is like, this feels like a diatribe about the love of filmmaking from someone who doesn't know how to make movies.
It is an anime film based off of a manga made by someone who really loves movies. It is, in a way, it's like 2 or 3 or 4 generations separated from the actual act of making movies. And then you take into account, on top of all that, that the studio that made this movie and a lot of these people are like relatively inexperienced just to begin with. Like, this is a new animation studio, by the way.
I'm not even talking about, but they show me within the confines of this film that they know how to assemble a piece of film, which is the stuff that I'm complaining about in the language that doesn't make sense to me. So it's clear to me that like the actual people who were making it, to a certain extent, have a degree of competence.
Yeah.
That this feels professional. My only star I gave this on my Letterboxd review is because the animation's good. But I can watch a really pretty paint drying. And that doesn't make it any more interesting.
It's like 3 or 4 generations separated from somebody that really does like movies talking about how much they love movies. In the first, like, talking about the manga that this is all based off of, in the first volume, there's like a lot of care taken into like writing in like these like little inserts for the characters about what is obviously that mangaka's like favorite films, and how like these are this character's 3 favorite films, and here's why they're like thematically tied together. And one of the ones that you talk about is Whiplash. Gene's 3 favorite movies are like 2 of them are like Taxi Driver. I have the fucking book.
No,
I'm gonna go get it actually. Yeah, I had a whole like segment based around the little trivia bits. It's gonna be, we'll pull this out. It's gonna be cute. Bring it out. Okay, so his 3 fucking favorite films are Taxi Driver, Fight Club, and The Sting. But there's like this whole little section where this guy writes in like, hey, obviously the 2, like Taxi Driver and Fight Club, you hear those and you see this person, this like young man, and you think, okay, that's red flags. But then he goes into like, but I think it's his 3rd film, his 3rd favorite film, The Sting, that is like necessary towards building what he actually is. Just like, he's more focused on the actual craft of making the film and like things that are like impressive about those individual films, like editing wise or cinematography wise. And it's nice in a manga. That's really cool that there's this little segment about it, and they make a whole deal of putting segments for each one of these characters. And that's cool for the manga, but I guess it's the film's job to kind of adapt that and make it
the way, to me at least, like a normal film, I'm not even talking about like a good movie, just a normal film would want you to educate, like, this guy is not just impassioned about film, but about the act of making movies, is you'd show him with some other people, not even like with friends maybe, or just like alone, attempting to make something.
Yeah.
I have no indication besides, like, up until the point where he gets like told, like, you want to make movies? No! Oh, and he acts so like, you know, nervous about it. I have no indication that this is this guy's desires, or no indication as to why in practice he has the talent to pull off his first feature film winning an Oscar. And I understand it's heightened. You don't need to repeat that again.
Oh, yeah.
But that being said, I don't buy that this kid is that talented of a filmmaker, because I am given nothing from the start to indicate that he knows what the fuck he's doing.
No.
And she tells him, like, I see it in your eyes. You know, you're desperate, pathetic.
Your eyes don't sparkle. If you take a look into everyone else's eyes, they sparkle brilliantly with the hope of adolescent optimism.
Yeah.
Disgusting
You've
little
got
eyes.
no sparkle in your eyes, which means that you're a fucking loser, which is why you're gonna be great at editing.
That is such just a self-insert garbage line. Because to me, it's like this indication that, further demonstrating the themes, you can only make good art if you're miserable. Every human being goes through miserable, awful shit in their life. But it's how you choose to take that awful stuff and go in stride with it. Like, I've been depressed. You've been depressed. We've all been depressed.
It's very depressing times.
Yeah. But regardless of that, if you're going to let that sort of like misery dictate how you make art, not only is that going to only appeal to other miserable people and not make them feel less alone, I only started being proud of my art once I started to accept that I don't need to hate the world. All of my art prior to that is edgy dog shit. And I don't like it.
I think, yeah, no, the source material had some self-awareness of what it was and what it was trying to do, and this film kind of lost that self-awareness. And that's a big fucking problem, and it also lost a lot of the character in service of, like, making this film. You know, there's no, like, you can get away with a little blurb and an insert in a manga because it's relevant to, like, the medium and it's interesting and it's cool to see.
Well, that's the
but
thing
with a movie, you have to adapt that sort of thing into something that works for a movie.
And that's the thing with comics. It's like a small blurb or a panel, your eyes can decide to hover over that and focus on that for as long as you fucking want to. You know, it's like fucking, what was it? The movie I said I liked, Batman versus Superman.
No.
The way that movie does Easter eggs is it has blink and you miss it. There's a comic cover if you pause it at this exact frame.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's like they have the scene where Batman's grappling away from Doomsday, shooting fucking lasers at him, and it's the cover of Dark Knight Returns. And there's examples of that all over the movie. That being said, you can't treat intimate character moments like that. The film needs to take time out of its precious little cutesy 90-minute runtime that it brags so much about to actually make something that will emotionally make the themes make more sense.
Yeah.
Because if your goal is to make, like, an audience feel something, just telling someone information isn't the same as watching someone experience something. You can be logically told information, but your heart and your brain don't, like, take it in the same way.
And it's weird because in the movie, they show literally, quite literally, how you can cut stuff. You can cut unnecessary scenes, unnecessary things from your movie to make it, like, to make more room for the necessary. And then they just don't do that. You know? I think maybe they were trying to and then just kind of failed at it, but, like, they didn't do it. And objectively, the movie's, like, worse off for it.
And I guess one of, like, the big confusing things to me is you were talking about off camera with me when we were trying to sort things out, how you're like, I don't think it's necessary for them to show what the extent of, like, the films they're making, like, story is for them to get about it. But to me, it's like, it's so easy for them, instead of it being this thing where it's like, oh, well, he falls off the roof, and then, you know, you show collaboration for all these people contributing to different ideas. Why isn't there collaboration of these people talking about the story and where this needs to go and how you used visuals to convey this idea in the story? The actual act of filmmaking is glossed over for these people's physical interactions on set, which is important because that's all a part of, like, the emotion. But if this is a movie about filmmaking, I feel like you should show how these people bond over the actual act of filmmaking. When we see them making movies, it's all these perfectly spliced and edited together sequences. They're already pre-made. But then, you know, let's go back to, like, last month's movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You have that whole Lancer sequence, which is all edited and spliced together, and it all has this, like, really awesome vibe, because it's like, oh, we're just going to watch a Western. But then it cuts the minute Rick Dalton forgets his line. And then we're seeing, like, even if it's just on camera, the behind-the-scenes work of, okay, this is where we have to go back, and this is how this actor's inexperience is affecting the story going on, because they physically cannot move the fuck on.
I think it sacrificed character and development for, like, the art and the, like, grandiosity of what they're trying to do, and I think it suffered for it.
And if art doesn't, like, pretty art doesn't mean anything, or isn't ultimately, like, building to an ultimate point, then I don't necessarily think your art served a purpose. It's like, you know, it's like murals being made for advertisement. Like, that isn't art. That's corporate art, but art has to, like, serve a purpose besides trying to sell you something. I'm not saying this movie's trying to sell you something, but
I think all of this really comes down to a point of, like, I'm willing to rate this movie a little bit higher than Colin's willing to rate it.
I think more than a little
bit.
bit.
I came into this discussion, like, feeling like, okay, I think I think this is still, like, a solid 6 or 7 out of 10, right? And hearing a lot of these like criticisms laid out is like, I kind of had some of them kicking around in the back of my head, but I'm willing to like put them aside due to my enjoyment of certain other parts of this film.
Yeah.
And you know, I think my score for it would be lower if we're just putting a number to it. I think it would have to be lower than I originally put it. I still think that there are things. I still think that there's promise in this studio, in these people that fucking made this thing. I think, you know, first off, you made a film that came out in the middle of COVID and still somehow succeeded. So there's at least something there to be said. But, you know, I would love to see like a success story where something like a production IG, kind of like with Dead Leaves, where these people will go on to make bigger, more amazing things that are like, you know, a lot of the guys from IG moved on to make Studio Trigger. Yeah. We had this whole fucking thing, and they're like legendary in the industry now, and that's really great. But I think they need to start making that step towards fucking that. I think I was willing to give this movie a little bit higher score than it really deserved, but I still don't think it's absolutely terrible. I think there's still some good there.
No, that's fine. And I mean, I guess like one of your things, and I guess this is something that maybe like in me not wanting to step on as many toes is something I guess I should have addressed earlier. It is this whole thing that we're talking about now for the first time, which is your desire to like not be as harsh on something, just due to the fact that like, you know, you want a success story. It's like I feel like that's a good reason why you just kind of ignore a lot of the problems that Austin Powers has. Now, we've talked about it's a similar sort of thing. And I say this with all the warmth in my heart. I have made shit that has been called shit. Okay? I am not calling this like a steaming turd that doesn't deserve love whatsoever. You want to love this movie. That's awesome. Anyone else wants to love this movie, cool. But in a similar vein, I don't. I very much dislike this. But that's also not me being like, you should give up on your day job. Because a lot of these problems are similar to so many other problems that people have with their first feature film. Now, it's animation. It's made with a team. There's a lot more people working on this than a lot of small independent features. But like, if we were to judge everyone based off of their first big corporate attempt off of that and tell them you need to give up on your art form forever, we would have no artists. Okay. I love the movie Clerks. Clerks is not this expertly crafted, perfect movie. Clerks is mostly 2 shots and handheld stuff shot on 16 millimeter, blown up to 35. Okay, and say with that what you will, but I would look forward to looking at this and being like, no, I don't like this, but I would like to see where this specific studio of creators would go.
I think that's the crux of things. Maybe I need to start being a little more harsh on things and being a little bit more blunt about my feelings and willing to bring things down a little bit more, so that when something does truly like surprise me, or when something really does impress, then there's more room for it to impress. You know,
tear my movies I show you to shreds. Fucking go for it.
But yeah, no, I hope y'all still had a time, at least gave this movie a chance, and you know, suffered or otherwise through it. You know, I'm glad that we got to do this show for a whole 2 fucking years, and that there's anybody anywhere still watching is a miracle. That's great.
We doubled our audience this year.
That's wonderful.
We have quite a number of videos that have passed any threshold that any of our videos from the first season went.
We have videos with actual comments from humans on it, which is a miracle. It's impossible to me, but that's great. So I just want to thank everybody out there for doing that. I want to thank you guys for being around, and you know, I guess we will see you in season 3 when we pick this up again.
Thanks too, I guess.